So, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 149 of the Declutter Me podcast with your host, Shelina. Hello.
Hi, Shirag. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm all right. Not bad. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Today, you have to not sound British.
This is a very. I don't know what to do with this because, well, for context, by the way.
It's very funny.
So, for context, obviously for our listeners, a listener of our show
Yes.
who you interacted with recently pointed out that they like my voice and I sound very British. So, is that
Very
what it was?
British.
Yeah.
And I said, you're not British. You have an American accent because you went to uni in America. And
Yeah, if you want to label my accent, it will be American. Although I don't think I sound that way anymore.
no,
Not
you
that
do.
much. I mean, there are words I know, but I mean, I don't sound as strongly American as I used to.
Yeah.
But
Still
British
American.
this is the first time I've heard British.
Yeah.
Honestly.
No,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
British. And then I was like, no, he really will not like that. That would be amusing for me. And she went, well, you must be rubbing off on him. So I think I am rubbing off on you, right?
I guess. I mean, that's the only explanation I can think of is that like and sometimes that I do. Okay, as a person, I've always done that. I've always picked up on certain words and things from people around me, and so. And
But
then,
here, there's either there's with the especially people born and brought up here, or brought up here, they either have very British accents or very American accents.
yeah, because it depends on the school they go to.
Yeah.
Generally, yeah.
But it'll be like the not from a not like an accent from a certain area. It'll be like the generic accent
Correct, yeah,
kind of thing,
yeah.
right? So you had the generic American.
Yeah, which that's what I'm getting at. So which is something that happened like as an evolution here. When I came back, I know people were like, "What are you talking like?" And I was talking like an East Coast Philly boy, ultimately, right? Which was super fast, like certain weird pronunciations of certain
Fresh
words.
Prince of Bel-Air. He was from
I,
Philly.
I feel like both of us just resisted the temptation to start singing the title song.
Well,
like
Prince Harry did it the other day, so we could just copy him, really, couldn't we? On the James Corden show, didn't you watch it? Oh my god!
I just didn't feel like I had a good reaction to what was coming. But anyway.
Anyway, moving
Funnily
on.
enough, the show is not about decluttering your accents. It's about what, Shelina?
Today we're going to talk about junk clutter. So
I feel like it's like a weird like mix of words.
yeah, so I mean we've talked about the 7 types of clutter before, and junk clutter has come up, and I thought let's talk about it more because I've had instances recently where I've had to deal with people who have demanded during the decluttering process, or even not during the process. Like, I sent the message to you because I was so shocked by this person. Remember who sent me a message going, "You need to pick up my junk from my house tomorrow."
Well, okay, no, that's not exactly what happened. They were like, you need to pick the stuff up.
Yes.
And you were trying to relay to them that this isn't something I can donate. It's junk, ultimately.
No, well,
right?
no, that was they wanted me to pick up the junk because they thought I was like, take my junk, that company
Right,
here.
right.
And I said, that's not my business. What I do is I go into people's houses, help them to declutter the stuff that they don't need in their life, and then organize things. Mm-hmm. Part of my CSR is that I will take things for donation and give it to certain charities that I work with, but that's if it's good stuff. And she got very upset and started threatening me. She threatened to take me to the police.
I feel like all your stories end like that somehow.
No.
She got really so-and-so got really upset, and then she started threatening me. We're like, okay.
No, I don't get threats that often. No, I don't get that many threats. I just tell you about things, but yeah, I don't get that many threats, really. So that happened. And it's happened sometimes, it's happened over the years. I mean, I've been doing this nearly for 8 years. So
Right.
I had people saying, will you take this stuff? And I'm like, no, it's junk. This just needs to go in the trash or in the recycle. But it happened again recently, and it's kind of got to that point where I'm like, now people are like, they think that everything that they declutter, because they're decluttering, it's such an amazing thing that they're decluttering, and they're giving it away to charity, and that we should take it. Everybody should just accept the donations of junk that they're giving.
Right.
The decluttering things, just because they're decluttering it, somebody else should accept it. And I thought it would be great to put the reality out there that actually a lot of stuff is not, your trash is not somebody else's treasure. It's actually junk.
Yes, Shelina.
It-
Your trash is
it's
not somebody
trash.
else's treasure.
Yeah, it's not everybody else's treasure.
But I think also like maybe it's and you said you already hit on this, right? It was about the fact that like a lot of the need to declutter comes from the fact that we've accumulated.
Yes.
And generally, the reason we don't get rid of stuff is we're like, well, it'll be useful at some point.
Yeah.
And so the idea then when you're decluttering is like, well, if it's not useful to me, it'll be useful to someone at some point. And
Exactly. Yeah.
that's generally the mentality people would look at. And I know that because it happens to me too,
Yeah.
that like, I'm like, well, it'll be useful, Maybe I can give it away to somebody because at least someone can use it, right?
I give him some of my stuff.
Well, that was why I was kind of like.
I just remembered. Yeah.
But the point again is that I think so. That's where perhaps sometimes things that you might buy might be useful to you, may not be useful to you, but it's not necessarily automatically useful to somebody else.
Exactly.
Or usable sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of things like people declutter. I mean, clothes is a big thing that, it is easy to donate it.
Right.
There are, I donate to one family that gives it to Yemen. So a lot of the clothes, especially winter clothes that are, decluttered here because people don't need them.
Yeah.
They actually need them in Yemen because of the mountains and stuff. And in the winter it gets very cold. So during this winter months, I've been donating a lot of it and they've been incredibly grateful. And that is great. I also had recently a guitar, which it's difficult to sell, considering how much you spend. And the client was like, just please donate it. Now, I could have just given it to the normal charity, but I gave it to this family. I said, see if anybody wants it in Yemen, if any family wants it, if anybody wants to learn how to play the guitar, because it might be something that they'll never be able to get right now, in considering the situation. It might help somebody. It might help a kid. It might make them a musician. So it's gone there, so there's things like that. Sometimes you think, it's so weird. It's not weird, but it's so random. Who's going to take it? But there might be someone. It might inspire one kid to learn how to play the guitar. So, there are moments like that. But then there will be sometimes, a lot of the time, I will get toys given, donated, or decluttered, sorry. And so the toys will be decluttered and they'll be broken, or there'll be pen marks on them, or limbs off, on dolls. There'll be things missing. Somebody will go, oh, well, it's fine. Just donate it. Just give it to them. I'm sure they'll play with it. And it's like, would you want your kids to play with toys that are broken and things? I mean, if there's a way to fix it, great. But yeah, you have to think about the end user and if they're going to actually use it, or are they just going to look at it and go, why are you giving me this trash? So that's what you have to think about. And I mean, right now, especially since last year, so many people have been decluttering. It has become a massive thing to do. And to the point, in the UK and the USA, the charity shops can't take any more donations in because they're over.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of stories
flooded.
about people just saying like, please don't give us more stuff at the moment. Yeah.
And even here, you can see it in, when I go to some of the charities, they're full. Some are not, it depends on what they want. So another thing that's been happening is people have been decluttering kitchenware. So think about like baking sheets and baking trays and frying pans and saucepans.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right?
Yeah.
But with the Teflon off, or the lining that's inside. So it's gone to the bare minimum, like it's been scratched off, right?
Right.
Which is fine, like, for baking sheets, it's fine. Like I have one, you've seen my baking sheet. I've had it for 20 years or something, and it's black, but it's fine because I just put baking paper, parchment paper on top of it, and then I'll use it, for cookies, because I'm not really a baker anyway. That's fine for me. That's fine for you. But a baking sheet with no Teflon, or a saucepan with no lining or Teflon on it, it's not going to be a nice thing to give to somebody.
Yeah, and it's not just only about the fact that it's not nice to give somebody something like that, but it's also like, is it really useful after that, right? If there's no lining and stuff, I mean, if the handles come off, at least in some utensils, there's an opportunity to screw a new one in or something. So there's some refurbishment you can do in a way, right? But if the layering is off and stuff, I don't know. I mean, I guess you have to recycle it.
Exactly. And I mean, like you said, with the saucepan handles, if, it's donated to certain country, like, if it went to Yemen, would they have the parts?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's So you have to think about that. What you think is suitable for donation, might not be suitable. And I mean, there is a lot of times where I'll say to people, like, I've seen shoes, they're in such a state, and they're like, oh, can we donate? No, it smells. It looks bad. I can see your toe marks in it. Like, no, that's not going into the donation pile. That is going in the recycle bin or even in the trash, because they sometimes smell as well. Nobody needs to be seeing that. Poor people have to deal with recycling as well. So that's what we wanted, people to think about today, is to think about, when you do the decluttering, it's great that you're doing it. And it is, I know it's a big thing to get rid of things, that you think have had value or still have value, but think also about the end user. What are they going to do with it? Will they be able to use it? Will they be able to fix it if it has got an issue with it? Or does it just need to go into the recycle bin or into the trash? Think about it realistically. If you could use it, yes, that's fine, but could somebody else use it? And if you send it to charity shops, they have to deal with the stuff as well, so that takes time as well. So you have to think about other people's time with dealing with this decluttered stuff, this junk. So yeah, and also when you do declutter and you do donate, make sure you donate it to the right places. Because there are, there are charities that will take certain items and not, in the bins will take certain items. So make sure you donate things to the right places as well.
Yeah, even the Take My Junk guys here have a list of things they do not take.
Well, they don't.
I mean, they don't. They almost take nothing, but
they don't
but
take junk anyway.
Yeah, but they're very careful about the stuff that can be reused or shipped off in a proper way, versus just like random things that you think, like, why this is totally usable, but they'll be like, no, we don't just handle it. So
I mean, they don't take bits and pieces anymore. Like, they used to take little bits like vases or cookware or whatever. Yeah, and it's the same, for organizers. We can't take everything. And like in other countries, organizers have to get a license to dispose of items in the dump yard, in the recycle areas, and to charities. So we are lucky, we do for certain places.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to become the case here, because obviously waste has become a big problem. That's something I was going to touch on too. Yeah. So as a result of which, like, a lot of providers who want to dispose of things actually have to pay a fee to dispose it, to dump it somewhere.
Yeah.
And so ultimately then that's where the problem is. That's why they tend to refuse certain things, because they're like, well, this one we have to pay for, so we're not going to. Yeah.
And it's the same with me. I mean, if it does get to that point, then I would have to get the license as well. I mean, I've been fortunate that where I work, which houses I go to in the community, especially when it's in, some of these communities, the security know me now, and also, the trash people come often. So they'll see it and they'll see that it's me, and I'll say to them, look, if you want to go through the stuff, you can go through it. If you want anything, keep it. If not, take the stuff and put it in the truck for trash. But, remove it from this area.
Yeah.
So they're grateful sometimes. Sometimes, there'll be things like old suitcases and things like that. And I'll say, look, take that, keep that for yourself, but everything else, please put it in the trash or put it in the recycle. So there is, because they're winning in a way, so they're more helpful. And so we are fortunate in that way, that there is that secondhand market in a way, isn't there? With, the maids.
Lots of things,
and the workers and stuff, they will take these things. But we also have to be considerate of what we are thinking is suitable for donation and what is actually junk.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I want to add here also is, even if you haven't done this in the past, this is from a sustainability angle, since that's what we want to talk, and we've been talking about that recently, is also think when you buy now, because ultimately you do have to realize that we are living in a very conscious world where we want to be a little careful about this stuff. And so when you're buying, think about the long-term stuff in it. So a part of that, of course, is buy stuff that is recyclable and stuff, and that's good for the environment. So we've talked about that. But then also think about longevity of certain things. Like, if I'm not going to end up using this, can I give it away?
Yeah.
And then maybe if you're not sure, then like maybe refrain from a purchase, or pick a product. If there are two options, one that will last a bit longer. Plastic tends to eventually fade, break, and or go bad. And stuff. And then you have, I mean, for me, like a good example, since we were talking about pans, is like a cast iron pan, i.e. which doesn't need too many layers.
Yes.
And stuff.
It's perfect.
It's perfect, because it's not going to go bad. The layers isn't just going to come off. It's actually the metal ultimately. Yeah. And so down the road, that's going to be reusable, recyclable in some fashion.
Yeah.
So that's just those little, like, smaller, you can start making those decisions when you're buying, with the hope of saying, hey, ultimately maybe this will not land up as junk.
Yep.
it's something that we can donate.
Yeah. And that's the same for, and as you said, and we've talked about kitchenware, a lot of kitchenware here gets destroyed in the kitchens from the staff, like there seems to be a lack of respect or care for, especially saucepans and frying pans.
Right.
They can go through them like 3 or 4 in a year, where like I've got the same set.
Yeah, it was gonna be like 3 or 4 in a year, man.
Okay. It's incredible what you see and how it's been destroyed with the steel wool and stuff like that, like the way it's been cleaned. Gotcha. So then it gets to a point where I'm just like, you need to just go to IKEA and just buy it from there because it's cheaper in it, or because it's going to get destroyed. But then that's bad as well because it's not sustainable.
Correct.
So yeah, if you get something like cast iron, it will last longer. So I have a cast iron pot that I use for cooking everything, and actually it makes everything taste better as well. Like my curries seem to taste even better. So yeah, think about it in that way.
Yeah, it's a coating thing, right? Like it's not dispensing. Anyway, This is a whole different debate. But
yes,
but ultimately the idea is like think about what you're buying, especially or at least try to implement that now, even if you have stuff. You can deal with that stuff.
And so the key thing to think about when you're decluttering, and I always say put it into different piles. So when you're decluttering, if you have a pile for donate, possibly look at that again and see, is it in a good condition to donate, or should it just go in the trash or in the recycle bin? So review those things as well, because seriously think, if that was given to me as donation, would I want it? And then it'll make it easier.
It's a good test. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Okay, so that's kind of what we want to talk about today, which is the difference in a way between junk and stuff that you can actually donate, and some things to think about around that area. As always, you can contact Shelina at Declutter.me, so that's at DECLUTTRME on all the socials, and declutterme.com for more. And we'll see you again next week for episode 150.
Bye.
Bye.